Amber Jaye, and you're watching the Storm Surge. We're coming to you live from the Game Day Morning Skate. We have some great stuff coming your way, and as always, we have some very special guests and exclusive video content, all while giving you an inside look at the team's game day practices they prepare to take on the Florida Panthers. On today's show, we'll have Shane Willis and Tripp Tracy join us for a chat about the Quebec International Pee Wee Tournament and the Olympic break. Shane has even brought some players with him. So from the Junior Hurricanes, so welcome, boys. How are you guys doing this morning? A little bit about the Quebec Pee Wee International Tournament.
Well, the tournament's been going now for over 55 years, and it's just such a great experience for these boys. It's almost like the Little League World Series of baseball, but on ice and playing hockey. These kids love going out there. They stay with French-speaking families as billets. They get to explore the city and learn about the history and culture in Quebec, and then obviously get to play in the NHL, the old Colisée where the Nordiques played, and play in front of, last year we had an opportunity to play in front of 10,000 people coming out to check out the boys and have a great experience doing it.
So it's undoubtedly a pretty cool experience. We have some Junior Hurricanes here with us. We're going to talk to them, ask them some questions. This is Christopher. Christopher, tell us what it's like to be a member of the Junior Hurricanes.
Being part of this team is a great experience. Making a team with some of the top players from North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia is a great honor.
All right, well, thank you so much. All right, and this is Andrew. Andrew, how have you been preparing for this year's tournament?
I've been doing a lot of off-ice training and shooting pucks at home, and I went to a nutrition class.
But it's one of those things that we try and, we always tell these kids we're going to treat them like an NHL player and get them in that experience. And at this age, at 12 years old, to get the knowledge of what he should be putting in his body to take that next step to become a great player, it was a great experience, and obviously, like I said, a great class for both of us.
All right. Devin, you went to the tournament last year. What are you looking forward to this year?
I'm looking forward to hanging out with my billets and hopefully winning the Quebec tournament.
All right, we definitely want you guys to come home with a medal. Shane, can you give us some more information on how we can keep up with you guys, how we can follow you? I know you guys are trying to get your Twitter followers increased, so we want you guys to all go out there and follow our Junior Hurricanes.
Right, in this day and age of social media, that's what we're going to attack to get these people involved in this tournament. Obviously, I tend to write a blog every now and then, put on our own Carolina Hurricanes website, but we do have a Twitter handle. Junior Hurricanes Quebec is our Twitter handle, JR Canes Quebec. If you want to follow us on Twitter, let's amp up the Twitter followers. I think we're around 400 right now. We'd love to see that skyrocket. And for everyone over the Olympic break, I know we're going to be watching all our countries compete over there, but make sure you stay tuned for what these boys are going to be doing up in Quebec as well.
And Shane, tell us when you leave.
We leave next Wednesday morning. Myself and the other two coaches and the 18 boys will be getting on our plane, hugging our parents goodbye, and we'll see them at 8 a.m. In the Coliseum this year. So we're excited.
Well, we are very excited for Shane and the Junior Hurricanes to participate and represent our organization well in the tournament. So make sure you follow them on Twitter. They'll be having updates and videos, and they'll even be at the game tonight for a special presentation. So Shane Willis and the Junior Hurricanes. Manny Malhotra has been working with Riley Nash on the importance of a face-off. We caught up with Riley this morning to talk about the face-off and his technique. Riley, you've been working with Manny Malhotra after practice on some face-offs. Tell me some of the things that he's been teaching you.
Obviously, from watching him and seeing him play, he's one of the best in the league. His percentage is top 5 every year. So he's been teaching me kind of get low, get in there, try and dominate the circle as much as possible, One of the big things about it is you're supposed to cheat as much as possible, even though that sounds bad, but it's usually the guy that gets away with cheating the most that wins face-off. So,
what is the importance of a face-off, especially around this time of the season?
It's huge. There are big goals that are scored, like in the D zone. If you win an offensive zone face-off, you score a goal off that. Especially come playoff time, it's just the little things like that that are going to end up winning games. So, anytime you can start with the puck more than 50% of the time, then you're going to have more success and ultimately win more games.
And speaking of some of the little things, what are some of the things that have changed since you've been working with him?
I think I've just been getting into the circle more. When I first came into the league, I was giving guys too much respect. You're a young guy, you don't want to step on any toes, but at the same time, you got to show that you're here for a reason and you want to be here. So I think that's one of the things that I've been getting more comfortable with, just getting in there and demanding my own space.
And what kind of questions do you ask Manny for? Like, do you ask him for feedback? Do you ask him about something that he does? What kind of questions do you ask him?
We more just discuss kind of what works for him. He's a pretty big, strong guy, so some things work for him that don't quite work for me, so I got to kind of tweak that a little bit and adjust my game So I just try and use as much as possible. Him and Roddy we're obviously two of the best face-off guys to play the game. So anytime I can be around those guys and go against them and soak up any knowledge, I'm going to do that.
And tell us about your specific face-off technique. I mean, tell us everything that you can tell us without, giving away too much.
It's an ancient Chinese secret right there.
This is a Storm Surge, so we want all your secrets right here.
No, I just try and go as hard as possible. Usually backhand, just because that's most guys in the league now are going on their backhands because it's the stronger side. And really just timing it, getting in there, like I said. And it's tough early on in your career just because the refs tend to throw the younger guys out just because they know they give the veterans the benefit of the doubt. So just trying to get to know them and get my foot in the door, and hopefully it all comes together and can turn out to be one like Manny Malhotra one day.
All right, thank you so much, Riley.
Thanks a lot.
Anton Khudobin was recently named the NHL's first star for the month of January. I caught up with Anton to see how he's been taking it all in. Tell us about, your journey to the NHL and then being the first star. What does it mean for you after you've been through all those channels?
Well, I think I hope it's just a start. Maybe I'm not gonna get often the first start of the month in the league, but at the same time, it was really nice for me. It was, it just maybe pays my work off that the way that I get here, because it's been a pretty long way to get to this level. So I think it's pretty cool. But I didn't realize until a lot of people started congratulate me that it's big of a deal.
When you heard the news, you said you didn't realize how big of a deal it was, but what was the first thing that went through your mind?
I was at home and I was taking a nap, and one friend of mine sent me a text. He's like, congratulations with the first start of the month. I didn't understand. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, well, you're the first start of the month in the league. So I went to the site and I checked that out, and it was pretty cool. I'm like, well, it's really nice. It's the first time that I played 15 games in a row, and I hope it's gonna get more and more and more.
Let's welcome back a familiar face to the Surge, Tripp Tracy, everyone. How's it going, Tripp?
Certainly good being with you, Amber.
Well, thank you so much. Tripp, Shane and the Junior Hurricanes were just on. You actually participated in the tournament twice and then went back as a coach. Can you tell us about your experience in the Quebec Pee Wee International Tournament?
Well, both times as a player were in the mid-'80s, and I grew up in Detroit, and in the AAA teams in Detroit, one team got to go, and it was very prestigious as the Detroit Red Wings in the NHL division. And I was lucky enough to go both times as a Red Wing, and the second year is my vivid memory as a player, because one of the guys that was on my team is Brian Ralston, who went on to win a national championship at Lake Superior State and Stanley Cup, over 1,000 games, U.S. Olympian. He just called me a couple weeks ago, out of the blue. And, he retired a couple of years ago after his great career, so he's got a lot of time. But he called me and he said, what happened in the finals against the New York Rangers? Why didn't we win that game? All these years later. So it was pretty interesting on that front. And the one thing I remember is the game in the international division before us went to like a third overtime. So we were in our gear waiting to play in the finals. Brian Rafalski was on the other Detroit team that was playing in that game before us, and a guy named Pat Peake, who was a Canadian Hockey League Player of the Year and suffered a career-ending injury much like Joni Pitkanen, first-round pick. So those are some of my memories as a player, and it's just so funny that Ralston, my buddy, all these years is wondering why we lost that game to the Rangers in the finals. So,
well, why did you lose that game to the Rangers in the finals?
We had no gas. We had no gas. They had, you know what? They had these white, very unique tackla pants that you never would see, and they were actually, I don't know how they did it legally. They were the Rangers, but they were an all-star team from a bunch of different states. They had a couple of twins by the name of Peter and Chris Ferraro, who were high draft picks. The New York Rangers went to Maine, won a national championship, host of other great players. So, and you know what? Ralston needed to finish. And I told him I thought I gave up a couple of goals I'd like to have back. I think we lost the game 2-1. But then in 2002, so just as I got a chance to go as a Detroit Red Wing, it was the Olympic break, and Randy Lattisur's son, Josh, was on the team, and I co-coached the team with Randy, who was a Detroit Red Wing when I was a kid. So that was just a phenomenal experience. Of course, the cultural part of it, of billeting and staying with French-Canadian families is probably the best and most memorable part of it. And I will tell you very quickly, not to go on, Amber, but you miss some school. At least I did. My first year, I was in 6th grade, and my science teacher was a woman by the name of Mrs. Renault.
Tripp, you have an amazing memory if you remember your science teacher from back then.
Well, if you remember this experience, she told me, because I was going to miss the school that I was, that I was going to have to do a science experiment to keep up with the class. And I said, okay, Mrs. Renault, what's it going to be? Well, you're going to have to dissect a chicken from scratch and put it back together in skeletal form. And I did it. And they put it on display, Chester the chicken. I have not eaten chicken on the bone since, all these years later. I mean, you think maybe she's going to tell me to study the periodic table or something like that, dissect a chicken from scratch, and put it back together in skeletal form because you're missing school going to the Quebec Pee Wee tournament. But I'm grateful that I went. All the memories as a player and as a coach. You look out here on the ice and you see so many of the tremendous National Hockey League players that played in the tournament. And now my girlfriend's French, so I wish I would have picked up more of the French tongue up there, but I've had to learn that the last few years.
Well, that's awesome, Tripp. Thank you so much for sharing your memories with us. Let's switch gears into these next 2 games before the Olympic break. What needs to happen?
Well, to me, I'm going to go back to what it was tough to reduce it to 3 season keys at the beginning of the year, but I'm going to go back to it. And one was a minimum of 10 games plus over 500 on home ice. The Hurricanes are presently 3 games over, but they have played some of their best hockey in this building over the last month. And they're going to play predominantly road games after these 2 this weekend. These are as close to musts. I hate to label them like that for this weekend, but they are. The second thing is your special teams, when you look at your percentages, you want them to add up to at least 100%. And really, if they add up to 100%, that just means that your plus minus is even in your special teams. So if they even just get to 100%, they've scored so many shorthanded goals, they'd be on the plus side of the ledger. The power play's got to get going. I mean, right now, I think, Amber, their even strength game on a regular basis is very impressive. I was between the benches for the game Tuesday against Winnipeg. It was a stinging loss. They made a couple of key mistakes, but I like what they're doing on a nightly basis at even strength. Case in point, a week ago tonight against the St. Louis Blues. But their power play, especially after the break, and even tomorrow when it's a back-to-back as Montreal will rest here tonight in Raleigh, that's when you really need it, when you maybe don't have energy. They've worked on it a ton in practice the last few days, and hopefully it finally gets over that hump. So to me, I really think with all these teams that they're competing for the Metropolitan Division race with and the wildcard standings, they're going to have to really take advantage of the home ice that they do have, and I think they've got to win them both this weekend, and their power play's got to get going. And the top players, it's been a few weeks now that they loaded up for the first time all year, that all their big guns in the top 6. Eric Stahl's line with Semin and Toulouse. They've got to recapture their magic tonight. I think that Jordan Stahl with Lindholm on one wing and Skinner on the other, they've had a ton of chances. This is a conversion results business. I've liked a lot of things that they've done, but that top 6 has got to start rolling, because they've been together now for quite a while in comparison to that previous look, which had Skinner on your 3rd line. So, to simplify, those would be the things. I hope they continue to get the type of goaltending they have, because that's been rock solid.
And what do you think this team needs to do going to the Olympic break? I mean, you've got some players going to play in Russia, but do they need to rest? Do they need to be, watching film? What kind of things do players need to do over the Olympic break to come back and hit that road trip successfully?
That's a great question. And so for me, 2 huge games in this building tonight and tomorrow. Okay, so then their first practice, I think they might have an optional on Wednesday the 19th. And then their first practice as a team is the 20th. I believe they're going to go to Fort Bragg for a day and practice there. So to me, the break is broken up into 2 segments. Starting Sunday morning, so Sunday through the 19th, whatever players decide to get out there on that optional. completely get away from it, recharge, give the body some time to rest. I'm not saying, not to do some off-ice workouts, but maybe give it a couple of days, completely mental and physical break, and then start to work on your conditioning, build some muscle mass back. And then the second segment will be to take advantage of practice time and use it as a training camp. And one quick note on the muscle mass thing. This was one of the most memorable parts of when Carolina won the Stanley Cup. In the finals, I remember an agent coming in, who was a friend of mine who represented Frank Caberlet, who was a great player for the Hurricanes that year, and specifically in Game 7 against Edmonton. And he came for the first time to visit Raleigh in the finals. And he said to me, I can't believe Frank, he's not the most muscular guy, but he's withered away to nothing. And that's what, playing this condensed schedule, whether it's the playoffs for sure, but the regular season, it does to you. Players come in, and they have all sorts of muscle mass at the beginning of the year, training camp in September. And because of how the pace of the game, the intensity of the game, even if they eat right, get the rest that they need, they lose a lot of that mass. So it's very important when you have a rare break like this to get that mass back. And for the guys going to the Olympics, be sponges. I expect Falk to be great over there. I expect Sekera to be a big part of Slovakia, just like they've been here. I hope it's a confidence-building couple of weeks for Tuomo Ruutu, because I think the Finns are really going to rely upon him. And I think it's going to be a fantastic experience for Alex Semin with dealing with all the pressure that there's going to be playing for the Russians, in Sochi, in their home country. So hopefully that answers it. Because they're going to hit the ground running in Buffalo on the 25th. And that's going to be the road trip of the year, hopefully after they take care of business in this back-to-back before we begin the break.
Well, thank you so much, Tripp, for that wonderful analysis. You really broke it down for us. Now let's find out what the players actually plan on doing with their time off. Tell us what you're doing for the Olympic break.
Well, we are going to Disney in Orlando, Florida with the kids for 5 days, so I think they're going to enjoy it, but I think I might need a break after the break.
This break, I'm going to take advantage of the time and have a small little family holiday, and then head back home for my brother's wedding. So we're really excited to go home and see a little bit of family and enjoy that celebration.
I'm going to Atlanta. I'm going down there for a couple of days. Probably lay on the beach, get some sun, get a nasty sunburn.
Swim with the dolphins, do some of that snorkeling fun.
Yeah, that's something I've always wanted to do since I was a little kid, so I'm pretty excited about that.
And what are you most looking forward to at Disney?
You know what, I think I just want to see the kids and how excited they're going to be with the princess dinners and lunches and stuff like that, and then my son with Toy Story and stuff like that. I think it's going to be exciting to see them react to that.
Any other plans other than just rest?
Well, me and Bowman might actually golf Pinehurst if we can get on there. I think he knows someone that can help us out, so that would be a dream come true too.
I'll be going up to Traverse City, Michigan to visit my sister and her kids, and we'll spend about 5 days up there, then we'll go down to Florida for 3 days.
Nice, so it sounds like you're going to get a lot of downtime, a lot of relaxation. Do you think that'll help you coming back after the break?
I think so. I think I'll be refreshed, and anytime you see family, it kind of hits the reset button, and then we'll finish it off with hopefully warm weather down south and come back and ready to play.
The Hurricanes have been playing extremely well at home, and while the team has a lot to do with that, so do the Caniacs. A few of the guys spoke out about the importance of crowd involvement during the games. What effect does the crowd have in keeping the momentum going and keeping the speed of the game quick?
Yeah, we're a tempo team and we're aggressive and we're on our toes. We need to use our crowd to our advantage. And in this building, when they get going, they get excited. It lifts our bench and helps our guys play at a high pace, and that's important, especially against a team like St. Louis tonight. You want to be on your toes and being aggressive, and they were definitely effective.
Tell me what's the importance of playing in front of a home crowd and hearing all of that noise, and does it get your momentum going at all?
Of course, you're playing at home, you feel like you're at home and maybe not too much pressure or whatever. But at the same time, we have a great crowd, and even before the game, when you're driving to the parking lot, they're waving to us on the way to get to the rink. So it just feels awesome, and nothing been better.
Caniacs are so great out there because you can feel the momentum, and as the game is shifting or something's turning in our direction, you can feel the anticipation and the energy grow in the building. And that's a huge part because we feed off that, and the other team feels it as well.
It hopefully makes it hard for other teams to come in here to play when the crowd's loud for us and cheering for us. So it definitely helps, and it's fun to be a part of.
You can tell when we get that first goal for one, you can tell the fans are getting into it, and it gets our momentum going. And it's always a huge part in every game, and we do appreciate every cheer that they make.
You know, I think it's just something we feed off of. You know, you get out there, you have a good shift, or you kill a penalty, score a goal, you know, the crowd starts going, and, you know, you get behind it a little bit, or you're in their zone cycling, and you get going, and they start cheering, you know, it kind of gives you that little bit, like, you know, all right, they're into it with us, and they're kind of boosting us.
These fans here have been known to be one of the loudest, you know, sets of fans, you know, in the league, so we have that as a bonus. And I think with our results in January being such a great month, you know, the fans have, you know, really come together and making it fun to play here. It's getting louder each game, and because of that, you know, you sooner get an advantage. And I think that's why we've had such a good home record recently, and look forward to these last 2 games of using it to our advantage before the break.
That's all we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back on March 7th when the Canes take on the New York Rangers. Remember, this is the only place you can get live coverage of the Carolina Hurricanes morning skate for every Friday home game. For Canes Vision, I'm Amber Jaye. We'll see you next time.